Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday service. How are you all doing? I'm joined tonight by Mr. Ian Hartup because we're going to talk cars again tonight, aren't we, Ian?
Aye. We are. Always a pleasure. Always.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We've got, well, we're actually going to do, dangerously do a bit of a, you're going to walk me through a bit of a demo tonight because you are going to teach me how to use TriAct, which is going to be fun. And so if it all goes wrong, Ian, it's all your fault. And you've this is good. You've got your Workbench camera set up tonight.
Tonight, live from the bench.
Brilliant.
Well, it's taking a bit of swearing, but we're there.
So I just got a helicopter flying over here. It's always could be the start of something big. No, it's just a police helicopter. Oh God, that's low. We're just going to play a bit of catch up here with a project that I pretty much finished today, and that was the Airfix starter set Land Rover. And this was just built straight from the box. What I did with this was my sludge wash that I like to use, which is where I just mix up pigments and water, and I slather the whole model with, with the wash, and then let it dry. And then when it's dried, I go at it with with some stiff brushes, like an old toothbrush or something, and just get rid of the excess. And I don't know if you can see, I'll just see if I can do a quick zoom. There's like Wayne's World here. You can see on the side there where I've been brushing downwards with I think they're just the Humbrol stippling brushes, but you get this beautiful staining effect. You could do this with paint, but as I said to Ian before we went live tonight, if you're trying to create dust effects, why use something wet? Why not use something dry? Okay, we are mixing it with water to do this, but it's just, I love this technique, and it's quick and it's effective, and it looks exactly like what you are trying to create, which is dust. And you can seal it in place afterwards just by a very gentle dusting of the model with some white spirit or some terps, and that's it. It seals the pigments in place, and I just think it's just a fabulous it's a fabulous technique. I mean, you can see on the roof there, there's no way I could do that with paint. So there we go.
Well, I liked it.
Sludge washes, Ian.
It's not a technique I've ever used before. I'm still in the nice shiny finish racing cars world. I keep saying I'm going to do a weather project. I'm going to do this, and then I like shiny. Yeah.
Well, shiny tonight is one of the things that hopefully you're going to walk me through, because if I just set the camera up here, because what we've got is a Fujimi Mini Cooper covered in British racing green, and this is going to be a kind of like a facsimile of my old Mini, but as shiny as it looks at the moment, it could do with some matting down with some TriAct. So that's what we're going to do probably in the second half of the program, Ian. You're going to walk me through it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the basics of using it.
Yeah.
The problem with any product, and this is my defense, is it's not an exact science. So, but TriAct will get you a uniform flat finish. Those of you who have watched my video will know that he's going to try it. I can do it. We're going to do it. There we go. Work on this. Now, I have to admit that since I recorded my lovely video, I've done nothing with this. Sorry. This is the Mustang funny car. I'm looking for uniform blue. Now, with John's Mini, that's got rattle can green on it. There's probably a little bit more paint on than this. This was just an initial coat that I applied to get a uniformity of base, and I realized that I'd got a couple of issues with runs and primer and stuff, so I've been working them out. And here, so that's now ready for another coat. But the thing with the TriAct is intended for this product, for this what's the word? I've lost it now.
Purpose.
For this purpose. It is developed by 3M specifically for polishing car colors and materials of that kind to a high shine. There is a very, very interesting video of a guy online doing this using the TriAct discs on a proper rotary device, water on it, and the finish he gets on that is just phenomenal. And it's kind of trying to replicate that. But he makes the point of if you're cutting through the paint, you didn't have enough paint on it, kind of thing. So this is why mine looks like it does, because it was on your first coat. The rattle can will be better because it will have more color on it. So what we want to do is not pick up the highlights on the edges and the like when we do yours. This is a hint. All right, we're not going to try and cut through. We just want gentle passes to take out the little nibs and the little bits of fleck and stuff like that, and just get them out. It might well then put you in a position where you've got a better substrate for a second coat, but you're building the finish up all the time, and that's what it's. We'll come back to that later on, won't we?
Yep. No, absolutely, Ian. We've got some comments here. Let me just go through these here. So, hello everybody. Blah blah blah. Let's just here we go. So, John Connolly has a question. He says, "Is 1/24th the true car scale and 1/25th the American cousin?" Oh,
I'm not even going to go there. No.
Is that metric versus imperial, Ian?
I don't think it's quite that simple. I think there's more to it than that, and I never quite bottomed out what it is. What I will say is I have friends on both sides of the Atlantic, and friends on this side of the Atlantic and on the other side of the Atlantic who work opposite. I will never, ever tell you which is best. Although, if Steve Abbott's watching, F1 car should be 1/20th, Steve. Sorry.
Yep. Sean Smith has a question. He says, "Does Ian know where I can get some 1/32nd scale wheels from?"
For what purpose, Sean?
Yeah, for which model?
Yeah, there are a couple of American manufacturers out there who do produce resin cast 32nd wheels for hot rods and the like. They are pretty thin on the ground. It never really. The problem is, if you look at car models, there isn't that much in 1/32nd scale about. Fujimi and Aoshima, I believe, do some interesting. You know, the Japanese Okasuka trucks with all the gear. Blah, blah. They do some of them in 32nd scale. If those two manufacturers are doing something in that scale, there is likely to be accessory parts for them available. But you're going to be looking inside the Japanese home market. American stuff, obviously in period, both AMT and Monogram did 32nd scale cars. There might be.
Here we go. Sean has clarified he wants something for an Airfix Ford Escort Mark 1.
Best bet, spend some time on Shapeways or one of the 3D printing places, finding a wheel that's the right wheel, and then finding someone to print it in the appropriate size for you. Because that's probably right now, with what's around and what's going on, that's probably not a bad start. if you're looking for something like mini lights or something, you might want to talk to Motorbits, because he does 3D printing. There is maybe the possibility, and I'm not putting words into his mouth because I know the guy and he's brilliant at what he does. He might be able to print yourself in 30 seconds.
Jim Algot says, Ian, I built that model from the original kit maker. Is it Johan or Johan? Johan. Some 40 years ago, the friend I gave it to still has it, and it's upside down.
Yeah, it's because
Oh, right, yeah.
It is. This is a Johan box. This is a 1974-75 issue reissue, I believe. There you go. Look at these other Johan kits.
Oh,
whole thing. This, and that is basically in. All the bits are painted. I just need to put the time and the courage up to put it together. It's a lovely thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful kit. Very much of its era. I really don't think we'll ever see something quite that nice again in that class of vehicle, unless the Chinese suddenly decide they like 1960s and 70s American dragsters.
I was having a read through an old Revell catalogue online the other day, and oh my goodness me, I think I mentioned to you before that my late uncle, he used to build cars, and almost exclusively Revell, kits, dragsters, you name it. And I can remember when we used to go around to my grandparents' house, and his models were on display in the cabinet there, and I was just like, it was just absolute awesome sauce. And I want to build, because we lost him 10 years ago, and I want to build something from that period just to kind of mark his memory. But we've got Christopher Joseph Buchholz has commented 120 for F1. Amen. And hallelujah. Hallelujah indeed, Christopher. And Richard Griffiths makes a good point. He says, try Pendle slot cars in the UK for 132nd scale wheels.
If anybody knows, Richie knows.
Yep, absolutely.
If I might, talking about those early Revell kits, your opportunity isn't that far away, because those are the toolings that Atlantis have acquired. About to reissue Tom Mongoose McEwen's rear engine rail.
I saw that, and it was, I was looking at it the other day, and I was thinking to myself, ooh,
yeah. Oh. There's a lot of people, me included, going, because I built that years ago, and okay, much like this Johan, they're a complex kit, and they reward careful assembly, and there'll be lots of flash and bits and pieces to work through, depending on how much effort Atlantis making to retooling or cleaning up the tooling. But you're never going to get a 21st century Meng quality tooling, if you know what I mean, modern quality tooling of a 1960s and 70s rail dragster. It's never going to happen. We'd be lucky to get a 2023 rail dragster or funny car out of anybody, but the historic stuff's never going to happen. So that's just a beautiful concept. We're going to get them back, and knowing Atlantis, they won't be massively expensive. They will have shiny new decals in them. They will have done everything they can to improve the tooling to a level that it's acceptable in the modern era. Can't fault them. And of course, they've reissued Godzilla just for you.
Yeah, it's the old Aurora. That's the Aurora one, which got. There's the story. Simon Lewis has got a question for you. He says, "Hey Ian, model car builders seem to have the edge with clear parts. What is your go-to glue and method?" I want to know this.
If you're talking about polishing, Novus. Novus plastic polish, which comes in a pack of 3. 1, 2, 3. The last one is like water, and I didn't realize I was going to have to reach for that. Oh, it's number 1 actually is the last one. This stuff. 2 and 3 perfect for polishing your clear coats after you've done your TriAct and you've got your flat back. polishing it, brings up to a beautiful shine. And if my friend Lee Croden was here right now, we'd be trolling out one of his custom cars, which are just stunning, and which he polishes with this stuff. This for your plastic and your clear coat clears. I still have a couple of people I know who do clear dipping, even having used this stuff. So you can go on. From an adhesives point of view, I see modelers gluing plastics with liquid poly, super glue, things like this. Gives me the heebie-jeebies. With super glue is good if you're going to leave it open because it needs to defume. We all know what the effect super glue fumes can have on plastics. Yep. And if you're going to sand to fair, like a windscreen fairing on an aircraft or stuff like that, it's a bit arcane to me, but that needs doing. But I still come back to my favorite gator glues. Wrong way. You'll notice these are all to hand. Crystal clear, because, yeah, crystal clear. But the one that gives the best strong bond always remains Zapt Formula 560 canopy glue. This stuff is designed to keep glazings on radio-controlled airplanes that are upside down at however many miles an hour. Blah. It's going to hold your windscreen in your model car for you really well. Dries quickly.
Who makes that, Ian?
Zap canopy glue Formula 560. Has been seen with a green label of late as well, but yeah. I'll give you an idea of how much I regard this. I always have a minimum of 2 spares.
Yep.
Because it's just the stuff.
I've just found it on an website, and there we go. Yeah, there we go. 2 ounce Formula 560 canopy glue, £5.25.
Yeah,
and that's the.
There is another one which a lot of people swear by, and I can't see my bottle of it. There it is. GS Watchmaker's glue. You know, the watch glass glue. This stuff. GS Hypo. I really must get the often right on camera stuff going right. That stuff there. It comes with a very fine needle. It's brilliant stuff. If you just need a slightly stronger bond.
Yep.
But it can be very stringy. It can be irritating to use, and it does have a habit of clogging up. Hence, there's a needle in the cap. Used to get this from our old friend Paul Fitzmaurice. Little Cars, Modelling Tools, who I believe is now no longer trading. So I can't tell you another stockist for that, but there will be one out there somewhere.
Well, I've just found some on eBay. There we go, GS Hypo cement. And that's the stuff, isn't it?
That's the stuff. I've just pushed mine into the back of the set of drawers on my bench.
Yeah, £5.72. I might actually. I think this week I might invest in some. Some glues. So
the Formula 560 is my go-to PVA. I've built because I have this thing about a lot of people talk about photo etch parts, and they go, "What do you fix photo etch to?" And I have a rule: if it's not structural, Formula 560 or Gator glue. Because it's just going to bond it. Super glue has no ping strength for photo etch because it has no shear strength. So if you hit something across super glue, it's just going to ping and disappear. PVA, A, you can clean it off with water. B, it will hold parts in place better, and it dries clear. Fantastic. Yep. Take a satin coat as well.
I've got this up on the shelf beside me. It's Ammo of MIG Ultra Glue. As far as I can tell, it's a water-based glue. It's not exactly PVA, but it's good stuff.
Is it one of the acrylic type?
Yeah, it's an acrylic. It's a water-based acrylic. There you go, acrylic. There's the clue.
Linked into where? Do you remember Airfix's Clear Fix?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they even still make that? Airfix's Clear Fix was this type of material. It was an early incarnation of the acrylic adhesives, clear adhesives. It was brilliant stuff. It didn't last long enough, and I don't think they developed it quite where it needed to be. But as products go, that was really good for exactly that job. So the fact that these newer, because let's be honest, these Gator glues very clearly say acrylic hobby glue. You know, they aren't PVA, but what they are is a water-based adhesive. So they're very useful things.
I'm just having a look here. Bear with me a second, because whenever I go into the Works bookshop, I'm always walking out with stuff from the art and crafts section, and that's some stuff I got a year or so ago. Clear PVA glue,
probably of a similar bent.
Yep. It was £1.50. Of course, I was going to go for it. So, and bear with. From Poundland, I think that was from Home Bargains. I think just a big thing of PVA glue. Always useful to have this kicking around in the workshop, because if you're doing vignettes or dioramas, you can mix it with water, and there you go. You've got something instantly to set things. I need to have a proper sort out all this stuff here. Jim says, I find coating clear parts in future protects the parts from fogging due to solvent-based and CA glues.
It does.
And Jim also says, Gator glue works for me, strong stuff that is easy to work with. I think this is the thing I like about the water-based glues, is that if you are a little bit heavy with them, you can just cotton bud, bit of water, off. Yeah. That's it.
To me, as cotton buds, the tight wound ones with that stuff. Yeah.
Mike says deluxe materials glue and glaze is fantastic too. That's
not.
I'll try that. When I'm next model show I go to, I am going to have a look at that. And Plastic Scholar says, what varnish do you guys recommend? What's it? Is this for cars or just in general? Might need a bit of clarification there, because I have different varnishes for different requirements. I've got to, whilst we're talking about varnishes, I've got to say, for the aircraft and the military stuff, I am completely in love with VMS. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Let me just put that on the right camera. VMS varnishes. I found out about these from Martin Kovac on his night shift videos. They're fantastic. You do have to apply them a little heavily to let the leveling properties kick in, but oh my goodness me, the satin they do is fantastic. So might do a little video talking about them.
I tried the gloss coat on a car.
Right.
It ended up in the bin.
There we go. Plastic Scholar means cars. So gloss varnishes for cars.
Yeah, I tried the VMS gloss coat on a car. It ended up in the bin. I'm not convinced it wasn't me, but it didn't suit me. Different people have a product that suits them differently. Mike's made a good point there. Mr. Colours GX100, beautiful stuff. I like their UV cut one as well, because it doesn't yellow with age.
Yep.
They do a rattle can version of that if you're into rattle cans and spraying, which can be decanted and resprayed and thinned with Mr. Leveling Thinner. So brilliant. They do a couple of jars of various GX clears. I also use Tamiya's LP9 gloss coat, widely available, off the shelf, lacquer base, clear coat, thins with their retarder thinner, gives me a lovely uniform clear finish, which is there. In fact, hang on. There.
Got a Workbench camera.
I keep forgetting it's there, you know.
Yeah.
I've spent all that time getting it working. So that is LP9.
Beautiful.
Over Zero's Spring Mist, which is a color that I absolutely love. It was from an AC prototype that raced at Le Mans in '64, something like that. So that's, and that's an AMT 57.
Oh,
that I was repairing earlier in the week, which is why it's on the bench still, because I've never put it away. So I built that during lockdown. That was one of my lockdown projects. So, quick back. Yeah, so each to their own with clear coats. I like my models to be factory finish. So something like that, it's a good scale gloss coat. It's not overly shiny. Don't get me going on 2-pack. Different conversation. There are options out there in the automotive world which have their own hazards with them, and we'll let other people make the decision.
Well, this leads to what John Connolly is saying. He says, "Hi guys, is it true the gloss coats for cars are very toxic?"
Yeah,
depends on which ones you're talking about. If you're talking about 2K ones, very.
Yes, very. I have used them. I'll hold my hand up. I've had very good results from them. I've used them in the past. Will I use them again? Not after the conversation I had with my doctor. No. They are cyanoacrylate cured products. So they put cyanoacrylate materials in the airflow around you. When you go to an automotive spray shop and you see the amount of equipment and the like they have for extracting those excess paint materials around them, you will fully understand why I don't want that in my workshop anymore.
Yep.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
Come back to where we were. You will find the one that suits you. Start with something easy to get hold of. Work with it. Try it. If you don't like it, move on to the next one. Start with the GX100 or the UV cut version that Mike uses. Acrylic X22. Thank you, Mike. Very useful. Widely available again. With the Tamiya lacquers becoming increasingly easy to get hold of, they do a couple that are really good. Start with them. Work from that. But because your process is as important as your product with clear coat, which is why we advocate the use of the TriAct, which is why we advocate the use of layers and building your finishes up, because that's where your gloss coats. You know, when you used to read about Aston Martin having 30 layers of coat on them, paint on them, and Rolls-Royce doing the same, and it's because each individual coat was polished back, flatted before the next coat was put on, and they were building up the depth of finish. That's where your high gloss finishes come from. They come from time, steady process, and practice. They don't come from an Uber product, because there ain't one.
Lee Suter says, "Good evening, everybody." Good evening, Lee. Right, Ian. What have you got? What else have you got on your bench to talk about this evening?
I've got some bits and pieces that have arrived fresh this week.
Oh,
a bit of a general conversation about what car modelers can and can't get. I'm going back on that arrow. A couple of bits to show people to give them an idea of what's around, and then we have a challenge, I believe, later on to discuss.
We've got a challenge. We've got two challenges tonight. One is we've actually got a modelling challenge that we're going to talk about, but the other challenge is me and this. So, but we'll do that. We'll do that after we've done your workbench.
So the longer I can make my workbench bit go, that's better. Yeah, okay. So those of you who follow the page, the Interesting Plastic Model page, will have seen some products. So let me just put this on overhead. Okay, so on the page recently, I put some pictures up of some decals relating to the forthcoming or just released BMAX new BMW 320e90 British touring car colours. This car, and there's an RAC Rally one from the same manufacturer. I saw these cars racing in 2011. We all saw them on the telly. They were on, I think it might have been on ITV by then. Beautiful decals, fantastic product. Not just that, he does a lovely set of 3D printed wheels. And here they are that go with, to make sure that you've got the right wheels on it. It goes with one of the newer issue BMAX kits. As I say, it's just coming out at the moment. These are stunning. I don't know if the camera's going to focus. Right the way down to valve stems. So that is really nice. Perversely, of course, the photo etch set for the manufacturers arrived before the kit. Yeah, I know. It's always the way. There's some carbon fiber bits in there for the seat. Nice photo etch, couple of little frets, seatbelt material. Yeah. Then these upgrades are getting a bit more expensive now. Do you remember when the detail upsets from Tamiya used to be like £7 or £8? These are
Mm.
about £25 now, and some of them, and it's getting a bit spendy. But that's a project which I will be putting on the IMC Facebook page as I go along. I might do a couple of little videos, maybe try. And if Jonathan will let me, I might do a pop-up or two about it because I am enjoying it that much.
Yeah.
This came in the post this week. So Barchetta, part of the Model Factory Hero setup, have announced and released this. Sorry, it's a little bit shiny because I haven't taken out the packaging yet. This is a universal set of lenses, clear lenses for headlamps. Some with guide marks on them, some plain ones, some rectangular ones, variety of options. If I buy myself a resin car kit or something like that of a period, invariably the resin cast lenses will have gone yellow or will not be particularly usable. This is wonderfully usable, completely universal, and so I bought 3 because you can never have enough clear lenses. And I got these from Hobby Search in Japan. I ordered them on the Monday. They arrived on the Friday. Absolutely brilliant. Really, really useful, universal product. There may even be aircraft and armor applications, searchlights and the like for some of these. And I think it worked out about £8 a set or something like that, maybe £12 a set. They're an absolute steal. They're worth having. That's those. So there you go. There's a little Portuguese manufacturer that I buy from. A guy by the name of Fernando Pinto. And he issues kits as FPP modulos. And his 2 new releases have just landed. I have a real soft spot for anything that says Targa Floria on it. Targa Floria is a road race around Sicily, stopped in the mid 70s for safety reasons. But yeah, these are 2 winners from that era. Looking at these 2 brought me on to a consideration of a conversation that we've kind of touched on before about what car modelers can and can't get in plastic. Probably the kit right now in the automotive plastic modeling world that's one of the kits generating the most feedback is the fact that Tamiya are reissuing an Alfa Romeo kit that's been out for years. We don't get, as car modelers, anything like the volume of new releases that aircraft modelers get. There aren't umpteen. There isn't a car that gets umpteen Spitfires, apart maybe from the Beetle and the Mini. They're probably the best served of the kits. If it isn't a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, you've got very little chance of it ever coming out in modern stuff. So think about Aston Martin. We touched on this before.
Mm-hmm.
How many injection molded kits of modern Aston Martins have been released? 1. 2, actually. I'll say 2. Because Airfix issued a 32nd scale car, which is basically a reissue of their scale extra kit car as a kit.
Mm-hmm.
Tamiya did the DBS, the Bond car from Casino Royale. If you want to produce a Zagato, a model of a Zagato, you have to buy a resin kit at 150 quid.
Ouch.
So I sometimes get a little bit frustrated. I'm going to come back to the main cam now. I get a little bit frustrated because I sit on Facebook and I'm an aircraft modeler historically as well as a car modeler. And I see, so someone recently announced a new tool, BF1. I think it was an F. And in the comments, there were comments like, not another. Why do we need another one of them and things like that? I'd love to be able to have that conversation about some cars, but it's never going to happen. And I think as car modelers, we've become used to having to spend either a lot of time on something very old or a lot of money on something lesser, if that makes sense. So these are beautiful things, you know, if you're into that kind of thing. But what they aren't is state of the art. It's a lump of resin. It's not a particularly well detailed lump of resin, but it's got all the shapes and the sizes about right. If that came out in injection molded plastic, I'd probably be looking at 50, 60 quid in the marketplace that exists. Instead, I'm paying over 100 for that. And I think as car modelers, we could quite easily feel hard done by in the hobby as a whole. We're not a massive part of the hobby. No, we're not, particularly not in the UK, but we are in other parts of the world. The American car market, model market is huge. But we're still not getting the volume and quality of product that the aircraft and the armor models are getting. You know, there isn't. So on Sunday, and I was sitting here watching Mike Reeves, yourself, Spencer, and Drew chatting about the Ryfield, the Puma. Ryfield announced the Puma. Dragon are reissuing theirs.
Mini Art are doing
Mini
one.
Art announced theirs. I'd love that. Could someone do that with a Ferrari F90 or this year's Mercedes F1 car or the current production, whatever, you know? So it's difficult for us. And I'm being general here about car models. And there's a few guys out there probably already commenting and going, Ian, you're an idiot. But there's other people out there that I talk to regularly and we have this conversation. You know, if I can go out and buy, what did I get? I got the Models Vit, one of the Models Vit MiG prototypes for like 25, 30 quid in 72nd scale. That is probably one of the most obscure aircraft you would ever imagine now available as a plastic model kit. The automotive equivalent of that, I'm never going to see that as a kit outside of this kind of product and at 6 and 7 times the price. So next time you're an aircraft modeler and you see someone announcing a new kit of a product, please bear that in mind.
Isn't part of the problem though, Ian, with cars, I know aircraft have started to kind of like meander into this sticky little quagmire, but isn't one of the big issues with cars, it's licensing, isn't it?
There's no sponsorship on that car.
Yeah, but I just wonder whether some of these smaller manufacturers, they bypass it because they're not.
Yeah, they're not big volume manufacturers.
No.
So the thing is, if you're Airfix or Italeri or Fujimi or Tamiya, or you're gonna license your aircraft kits, you have to now, because look at Boeing. Look at the size of it, the side of an Airfix B-17 box. Look at an F-16 box. They've all got licensed Boeing products on them of some shape or form, because you have to now, because people like Boeing will pursue you. The only person you've got to deal with here is Ferrari. You can get Ferrari licenses reasonably easily in the world. It's just that they don't see it as a profitable market because, unfortunately, we let them. I know that sounds ridiculous. I try and think I know what I mean. What I'm trying to express is that licensing can be used. If you're looking at a modern Formula One car, they're covered in sponsorship. Looking at a modern endurance car, they're covered in sponsorship. So you need an individual license for each of those stickers. And you'll not get one from Goodyear without spending a lot of money. We know that. And you'll not get one from anything tobacco related, but that's not going to happen in the modern era because tobacco sponsorship doesn't exist in the modern era. Anything after about 1994. So that's that's an issue. But if you go back to historic stuff, you might see a Dunlop sticker, you might see an Avon sticker, you might see a Champion. Those logos are all out of copyright now, so they're not that difficult. And even if they are, you can get them reasonably easily. It's just, I don't think they see it as a profitable part of the market. I don't think they see that there's a potential sale in models of old cars. They think that the only thing that's going to sell is the latest supercar or the latest superbike. And about the only people really issuing them are Tamiya, possibly BMAX. But BMAX are busily working their way through a BMW catalogue from the 80s and 90s. I've got one of their 320 E46s on the bench at the minute. Work of art. There isn't a single sponsorship decal missing from that kit, and it's fully detailed. So they recognise that there's an opportunity there. I'd just like a few other people to do it as well. But in the meantime, I'm spending money with people buying things like this, but I can only buy one of them. If it was 30, 40 and injection molded, I might buy 4 or 5 because there's 4 or 5 versions of that car. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make.
Got some questions here, Ian. Jim says, Ian, have you purchased or seen the Meng 1988 McLaren F1 car? Forget the scale. If you have, what are your thoughts?
Can't comment on that.
Right, okay.
I have an association with the competition.
Okay. Mike Williams asks, he says, I like the good old 80s and 90s supercars, Lambo, Countach, Ferrari F40, Porsche 959, Jaguar XJ220X et al. Don't see many of these in new releases. Then again, I might be looking in the wrong places.
Yeah, and that's my point. Mike's just hit the nail on the head. Although, Mike, you need to look for Ayashima's Lamborghini Countach, because that is less than 10 years old, all new tooling, beautiful. But I would say that.
Okay. All right, Ian, we've got about 15 minutes left to go. We do have a challenge to talk about at the end of the show. If you got one more thing, you got anything else?
Should we go straight to TriAct?
But that's exactly what we're going to do now. So we are going to jump to my Workbench camera here. Let me just zoom out a second. And I've got my pad of TriAct 3000 here. And let me just go single picture.
Yeah, please.
And I've also got a little thing of water here and a pair of scissors. Now, treat me as if I'm a complete idiot, which is not that much of a stretch of the imagination. This is the first time I'm going to be using TriAct here. So, Ian,
cut yourself a strip off the edge of the disc.
So
about 1.5 centimeters across.
1.5 centimeters across, right? Okay, so too much, too much, too little.
That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut that out.
Like I say, you've got to imagine I am an absolute buffoon.
You now have in your hand, not a piece of paper, a piece of TriAct that is manageable.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Dip it in the water.
Well, hang on. What you've got is a piece of foam backed with on the front face of it, you've got an abrasive that is electrostatically bonded, much like the now famous Infinity sanding sticks. So it has a very short life. But it works beautifully. So it needs to be wet, not overly wet, just wet. And what you're doing is, without any real pressure and in one direction, swiping it across the surface. in passes. That's it. And you want to get is a uniform. Don't go over the same area more than a couple of times. Okay.
But you want to see the surface start to flat off, don't you?
Yes. So if you now wipe that with a bit of cloth or a bit of tissue and hold it against the light, you'll see the effect it's having. So it's giving you a uniform matte fin. That is, and it will show up your imperfections as little marks with bright around them to allow you to go back specifically on the imperfection, not over the entire surrounding area.
So I'm looking at it at the moment, and I can see how I'm just going to zoom in a second because, oops, Daisy, because I'll see if we can get this on the zoom. You can see like that. You see that kind of rippling effect.
Yeah.
So where we've flattened it down, but we've still got
that is showing the orange peel. That's probably a primer underneath.
Yep. Yep. So carry on.
I wouldn't go much further with that, to be honest.
Okay.
Because what you're now showing yourself is that you're going to need another coat.
Right.
All right. Because what that's picked up is that's underneath. You've got. I presume you put grey primer on that.
Yep.
Yeah. So you put grey primer on it, and it dried a little too quickly, so it didn't self-level properly, and that gives you that rippled effect.
Right.
Orange. Okay. You then put your rattle. You've given that a bit. Did you give it a little bit of a sand before you paint? Before you put your top coat on?
I polished the grey primer. I polished it with some Scotch Brite. So and then I polished the primer. There might actually be photographs on the page, but I then polished the primer so that I had as smooth a finish as I possibly could.
What the TriAct showing you there is it wasn't quite as smooth as you thought.
Yeah.
And it's also showing that the green has followed that finish very carefully, very generally. So you've got to, what you're aiming for is to get the whole of the car to the finish you're looking at on that roof.
Okay.
But without cutting through the paint and into the primer and the plastic cut below it.
Right.
And that's the art form. So when you've got that, I wouldn't do any much more to that roof.
Okay.
When you've got that, you're going to give it, when you've done that, you're going to give it another coat of paint. Because you want to get rid of as much of that ripple effect as you can. So the best way of doing that is to build the layers of color up and get each one to a fine finish, and eventually end up with one where you won't see the ripple effect.
Okay.
Basically level the paint finish out, at which point you can put a clear coat on it and repeat the process. And that's how you get that depth of finish. Your risk on the Mini is always the ridge down the middle of the bonnet.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm being very, and like I say, I've got it tilted to the light, so I can see when it's going. As we just clean that off a second there, I can see where it starts. You can see there where it starts to flat off.
Yeah.
So and
it isn't a process you'll get right first time.
No.
Because it's understanding, because as you can see, you're using 3000 there, aren't you?
Yep.
The cut rate on wet TriAct 3000 is phenomenal.
Right.
It's not a slow process. So it's about slowing your hand down, taking it steady, not sanding it, for want of a better phrase.
Yes.
You're just passing it over to get the... It's brilliant. As products go, absolutely love it. It's improved my finishes no end.
You recommended was it the 6000?
Yeah, I use 6000 predominantly.
Yeah. I ordered some of that today from eBay, and I think it cost, with postage, I think it cost me about £6 or £7. It's another great big disc like this.
Yeah.
But
I think
this is the first time I've ever used TriAct, Ian. I'm actually finding this strangely therapeutic because you're kind of like
don't go too heavy on that.
No.
I know you're working that corner quite.
See, look, that's really quite flat now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really quite therapeutic. I'm in a groove here. I'm liking this.
You can sit and do a good sized car to a level where it's ready for next. Give it a really good soapy water wash off after you've done. Get rid of all the residues. Make sure there's none in the nooks and crannies and the bits and pieces. Get it properly dried off. And I use we had this conversation before, a dehydrator.
Yep.
To dry mine off.
Yep.
Then it gets another wash. Goes back on. Now I'm going to struggle to pronounce that. Gentleman who's just asked a question about what grade you're using, 3000 there, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm using 3000. Which one are you using? Ho, there we go, 3000 TriAct. So
yeah, the thing with it, Ho, is for figures and tanks, it's not that good because it's designed for use on large flat surfaces. If you're working great on things like wings on aircraft, if you've done a multi-tone camouflage and you want to take in the ridging out between camouflage colors, brilliant for that. Really good on single color aircraft, like Mike's just mentioned. He used it on one of the racing Bugatti aircraft. Brilliant for that. Absolutely fantastic. But for more complex subjects with raised detail and things like that, where you need the details, not necessarily the right product to use. Won't give you, you'll be picking paint off the edges of things quite easily. And that might actually therefore be detrimental. You'll be wanting to you'll have to reapply and things like that quite regularly. So it's not necessarily ideal in that circumstance. If you're doing the gloss finishes, the highest grade I've found is 6000. I've heard 12,000 rumored, but I've never been able to get hold of any. But it might only be available on the continent. A friend of mine in Germany has had an email that says, go find this. We'll see what he comes up with.
This is brilliant.
Nice, isn't it?
I'm really enjoying this. It's God, thank you, Ian. Yeah, because now that I'm looking at this, I can see that I can see where there's like there's a great big, there is a blob there.
Should we call it an inclusion?
An inclusion. Right. Okay. No, absolutely fabulous. Thank you for that, Ian. I will practice my TriAct technique, but I tell you what, we are definitely, well, I didn't need it for this because this was deliberately kept on the mucky side, but we have a challenge coming up, and I think for the challenge, I think we're all going to need to break out the TriAct and get our finishes as glossy as possible, because we have decided that we are going to institute over the summer, so we're going to give this a good couple of months for people to jump on board. It's the P34 challenge. Any P34 kit, any scale. So there are some 1/12 scale kits, aren't there, Ian? There's plenty of 1/20th scale ones. There is a 32nd scale one from Matchbox. So there are Tamiya, Fujimi, Matchbox. I think they're the three manufacturers that have done the 6-wheeler. But yeah, we will announce a start date. We are looking at the end date being the end of August, so quite literally the calendar end of summer. But yeah, grab yourself a P34, folks, and get building, because I just think it's a fabulous car. And in traditional Blue Peter style, here's one I prepared earlier, because there we go. I'm so looking forward to this, Ian. I really am. And I've got to give a shout out to Mike Reeves in the States, because Mike sent me the instructions and a set of decals for the original blue version, which is the one I prefer. When I wanted to get this, Andy Farmer at the Hobby Company, the only one that was available was the 77 one in the blue and white. But Mike has rather kindly sent me a set of decals and an instruction sheet for that classic blue version. And I'm not going to get the bits out, but honestly, I'm just like a kid here. And I've also, when I was last time I was at Froome, or a couple of years ago, I did invest in just a generic set of Tamiya seat belts, 1/20th scale seat belts. So there we go, folks. You've got advance notice that the deadline for this is going to be the end of the summer. We will create a proper poster so that you can see what's going on there. But how exciting, Ian! P34 challenge.
Yeah, I've got two, and you'll notice there's a link. So this is Tamiya's issue of the original car, 1976 Grand Prix, Japanese Grand Prix version. This is the Fujimi kit, both 20th scale. This is the 1977 Japanese Grand Prix version. Both the 1976 and 1977 Japanese Grand Prix were at Fuji. This is a very famous race for obvious reasons. This less so, but I have a thing about those two races. I have reference material, and I have a paint to try. This is a new number 5 from. I got this from Spain. They are a European brand, and these are color match paints. I thought I'd try it. This is their Tyrrell Blue. This is the only problem, of course, in that being mildly anorexic, that is. I do have to have reference material coming out of my ears. Yeah. The thing with the 77 Japanese Grand Prix car is it ran Jody Scheckter's car ran a completely different rear wing. It had like a lattice framework rear wing, and there's lots of pictures of that. 76 car, and this has got lots of pictures. These are Japanese magazines by they out of print now, unfortunately. Sankaido F1 modeling magazine. So pictures like that, which is an Imperial Tobacco sponsored Lotus from the area when Lotuses tended to be black and gold. But it's full of pictures. So
I was reading up on it today, and it was just a fabulous design, which by the mid-80s F1 decided that no, cars had to have 4 wheels. So
by the end of the 77 season, to be honest. However, by that point the writing was already on the wall for it, because Goodyear wouldn't continue to develop the tire if there was only going to be one end user. So the front tires were kind of no longer available after that. And by that point, obviously, we were starting to get into ground effect and the like. Mr. Chapman had done his thing.
Simon Lewis makes a very good point. He says, might be worth finding a few price ranges for folks, as some of the P34 kits are coming in and around plus £30. I'm sure if you hunt around, you can probably find them on eBay or secondhand a little bit cheaper. So I was looking this afternoon at a Matchbox one, because I thought I'd love to get a Matchbox one. Yeah, I disavowed myself of that particular notion. Let's put it that way.
They're fetching stupid money.
In fact, it was reissued by Revell in the late 1990s. But I even tried going to look for that, and not a Robbie sausage, I'm afraid. Ian, time has got the better of us, unfortunately. Any other business?
Yes. I was recently at a model show in Peterborough.
Oh,
In Peterborough. And there was a stand with a lady and gentleman on selling display cases. They turned out to be local to me. Now, with any car model with a nice gloss finish on it, what you need is something to keep it dust free.
very nice.
I'm going to make an admission here. I've actually lost their business card. But they were at Telford as well, and I didn't know. I missed them at Telford. These are lovely.
What neck of the woods are you in, Ian?
West Yorkshire. So these are
Yorkshire.
I think this couple, I think they're pasted somewhere in Ossett or something like that, or Normanton. Beautiful display cases in acrylic, really nicely finished. Apparently they're for commercial use, but they found out that we like them too. This was under 20 quid. Tamiya's boxes are more expensive than that. They come beautifully packaged. And my particular favourite, and I've just dropped part of it as I reached for it, is this one. Bearing in mind, I like my Tamiya motorbikes.
They weren't called Dream Keepers, were they?
No,
No.
I don't think they were. I'll find the business card and I will put the information up on the on the Facebook page when I find it.
Thank you.
It's in my wallet or something like that, or I thought it was, but I think I've put it away somewhere. So Display Sense Limited. Thank you, Dave.
Display Sense Limited. There we go. Yep.
Or Visual Impact. Visual Impact. Might be Visual Impact.
Is it
anyway.
Display? It's just Display Sense Limited.
They were at Hinckley today. That's it. Visual Impact. Well done, Dave. Absolutely brilliant product. Dirt cheap. I know that's not the be all and end all, but by comparison, no, Simon, I don't like
Visual Impact. Right. Okay. Let me just call up the
while you're doing that, John Conley says, not a car guy, but have a Revel 37 Ford pickup, thinking of patina finish. Yeah, now TriAct that we've just been using is very useful in that circumstance. So you can build your colors up in layer. So start with your silver for your base metallic, build a primer coat up, build a color underneath. And obviously, the idea is you should show through previous wear. So you can build a couple of colors on it. So you might start with the pale blue and then put red over the top of it. When you TriAct it, if you'll do it right, it will run through and it will pick up the other coats. So you can then seal that with a varnish or similar, and you've got that kind of patinaed paint finish where it shows previous layers because it's sanded through it in such a controlled manner. It's a technique that takes a little bit of care, but some of the effects I've seen done with it, stunning, absolutely stunning. And I think you're on the right path of that. Get your finish on it, and then obviously you can add your using the Sludge Wash techniques that Jonathan's an advocate of and things like that. You can then weather it back and again seal with a matte or satin coat. You'll end up with a fantastic looking thing, and I want to see pictures of it on the Facebook page, please.
Yep.
I've got some Wednesday.
Ian, time has got the better of us. We've got time for one more question. It's from Ho. He says, Ian, you have to glue the acrylic plates, or is it a box from the beginning?
This is how they come, my friend. This is how they come.
Made.
They are bonded, ready to come. They come packed beautifully. If they can supply them to you, I don't know where you are, but I know it was 1:30 in the morning, so I'm presuming you're somewhere on the Asian subcontinent. I'll ship them to you, mate. You'll never ever buy them from anyone else. I think they're fantastic. I'm really, really impressed.
Fabulous stuff, Ian. As always, I come away from talking to you just wanting to build more cars. But I've got a head start because we've got a head start, and the other thing is that that one is going to be finished as my beloved green machine.
And this was the flag on the roof.
Yeah, do you know what? I might do it really faded, which is how mine ended up in ultimately. Interesting story. This was a trip back from the Froome Model Centre. This is about 10 years ago, and I was with my good late friend, Mr. Hector Hamer, and we were coming back from Froome, and we were driving along, and we suddenly saw this JP3 in a farmer's field just outside Bristol Airport. So we pulled up and had a look, just took a photograph and everything. But that ended up being the aircraft that I measured up all the markings for when I got round to doing the decals for the Airfix JP3. So that's the aircraft that I measured up all the stenciling on it. So
I think you actually built every decal option of the Airfix JP3 that's been issued.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
But yeah, this will be a facsimile of my beloved green machine. So not going to be exactly, but it's going to be kind of like a homage to something like it. Ian, it has been fabulous tonight. I really do appreciate you giving up your time to do this, and I'm hoping you'll be back again. Because I need to build more cars, essentially. And I know if Mr. Andrew Farmer is watching this in Clevedon, he'll be watching this and saying, yeah, you definitely do need to build more cars. So
well, there's a P34 that he's going to expect, isn't there?
You what? Sorry?
He's going to expect a P34 from you by the end of August.
I'm going to do it. A big thank you to everybody who's tuned in tonight. Keep an eye out, because we will be doing hopefully we'll be doing some pop-up lives at some stage. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and watched the Meng ones that I did. Fingers crossed, I've got to book myself a trip to Glastonbury to deliver them. So always a pleasure to go down the road to Glasgow. On that note, folks, have a good week. Thank you for watching. Big thank you to Ian for joining us this evening. And we will, fingers crossed, see you next Sunday for the Sunday service. So until then, thank you for watching. See you later.
Uh-oh.